And we are live. How sweet it is, Mets fans. How you doing, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest Metropolitan postgame segment as the Mets take down the San Diego Padres by a final score of 11-6. We have a plethora of things to get into in this matchup. As you guys can see, I figure, it's a beautiful day this Father's Day. Let's set up on the deck today. Shout out to my dad, the best dad out there, with the awesome wallpaper you see on the back there with the WardyNYM logo. Shout out to him as always, everybody. But spam those W's, everybody, for chiming in live on a replay here in the chat, in the comments down below. The Mets win a massive series. They win it in a beyond impressive fashion that we saw in this one by a final score of 11-6. We're going to get into all the key takeaways in this matchup, how the Mets scored all these runs. Is this something that they can now build off of now just 4 games below 500? 5 straight victories. They sweep the Padres for the first time in roughly 20 years. 18 years it's been since the last time the Padres did this, and they come out here with a massive victory now for a Mets team that currently sits just 1.5 games out of a playoff spot. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? What did I tell each and every one of you amazing Mets fans for chiming in live on a replay from the start? The Mets can have themselves at worst a 3-3 homestand, and hopefully around a 4-2, let alone them to have a 5-1 stretch the way that they did. How can I not be juiced up about this Mets team? How can you not be? Sweet Pete, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Really appreciate that. Frank says, Sweet Pete, yes he is. The polar bear has awakened from the slumber. Hibernation no more for the Metropolitan first baseman. Michael Hoff with the $2 donation. Michael, thank you so much. Grimace is the Mets MVP. Yes, he is. The Mets are now 5-0 since that candy corn looking triangle-shaped mofo by the name of Grimace from McDonald's throughout the first pitch for the Mets, and since then the rest is history. They may never lose a game again. All jokes aside, Anthony, great member of 14 months here, how you doing? Says LGM, love the outdoor vibes. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Cameron with the $5 donation says they should call in the NL mild card, not wild card. Yes, it is very mild. It has been mediocre, but you know what? This is why the Mets need to pounce and take advantage of the opportunities given them. First and foremost, everybody, happy Father's Day to all those amazing Mets dads out there. As a soon-to-be father myself, and I kid you not, folks, when I tell you the following, my due date today for my baby to be born was in fact today. However, it doesn't look like it's going to happen right now. So sometime next week, if I'm MIA for 24, 48 hours or so, that is why, because I'm busy, having a baby come into the world. But until I'm officially a father, shout out to all those fellow fathers out there. Again, happy to have you guys in here. We have so much to get into, as we will hear shortly, folks. We're going to get into the highlights as I have right here, especially if you guys are new and wonder what we do here at WardyNYM. We're the #1 platform on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY, for all things Mets coverage all season and off season long. We got the highlights for you right there. We're going to get into the pitching. I'm going to tell you why I was encouraged and slightly discouraged on the pitching front today. Tyler McGill was someone who was solid. Jake Diekman is someone who I want sent to the sun. Then we get into the offense here, and you get a hit, you get a hit, you get a hit, you get an RBI, you get a run scored, you get an RBI, you get a run scored, you get a home run, you get a home run, you get a home run. JD effing Martinez being on base 10 consecutive times in a row up until that ended with a strikeout in the 8th inning. JD Martinez, this is exactly why I told all of you when the Mets first signed him how pumped up I would be. Even a regressed JD Martinez at 80% of his usual self is the best thing to happen to the Mets in the DH position, and that is full-fledged what we are seeing right before our very eyes, folks. But before we get into it all in the numbers, let's let it rip with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Shout out to my guys, Greg and Jordan, as always with the jingle, making sure we're live here on Twitter as well. If you guys follow me on Twitter, make sure you do. Doing some big things on Twitter. May have an announcement as soon as this upcoming week, so be on the lookout. If not the following week, but your boys making moves, exciting moves. But if you guys are watching here on Twitter, thank you so much. Hit that like, that follow button, that retweet button. But no, as always, I will only be interacting with our live viewers that we have here on YouTube. So I appreciate everyone that's been taking the time. If you haven't already, make sure you get involved, smash those buttons, and let's let it rip, folks. So much transpired in this ball game, everybody, and I see someone in here. Wardy, where's the Hogwatch collab? Ask Borna. I love Borna, but he's been ducking me. He's been very busy this series as well. He's going to do probably a couple 15-20 minutes on Hogwatch. That is basically the WardyNYM version for the Padres. My man Borna over there, he's probably talking about how everything is going to hell in Padres land and how a piss-poor Mets team just swept them. So the bar is very low in San Diego, and it is right now. But the bar's not low in Queens. We're riding high, we're feeling good. And if you're wondering, Wardy, why do you feel so good today? How can you not feel good? It is beautiful weather this evening here on the East Coast. The Mets just won their 5th consecutive game. They absolutely curb stomped a Padres team that had everything working there for a short bit thanks to Jake Diekman not knowing at all what a strike zone is. But thankfully the offense replies back. Luis Torrens, the former Padre, getting in on the offensive action again. Tomas Nito, who? Not a slight to Tomas. I'd like to make that clear. Just happy the Mets made the decision with Luis Torrens as their backup catcher. And guys and gals, we're almost at 50 likes already. Thank you all so much for that. But I do not want to waste time. We are 1.5 games out of a playoff spot right now. How we feeling, Mets fans? I want to see it spammed in the chat. 2 things. The first thing I want to see spammed is those sweep emojis right now. Again, the floor is dusty. I want you guys to clean it up. Start spamming those emojis. Now, secondly, the second thing I got for you, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your optimism level for this Metropolitan team to, in fact, crack a wild card spot as we currently sit 33-37, 4 games below 500, 5-game heater, 1.5 out of a playoff spot? I know that being in a playoff spot means literally nothing right now, but for a Mets team in which we all thought the season was over this past month, a lot of us felt that way, truthfully. It's got to feel good to say the least. So spam it. Let me see in the chat. Gary Joyner, thank you so much for the $3 haul, my friend. Happy to have you in here. Shout out to Dave, great member as always. Shout out to all my members chiming in live on a replay. Daniel, Tim Welsh, let's get it up in the list here, everybody else. Frankie, how you doing? Thank you guys for the donations earlier. Jonah Johnson, BR, great member. Thank you as well. James Carroll, great OG member on the channel. Murdoch, Oscar, if you guys want shout-outs as well. Mama Worm, how you doing? A 10 out of 10. You love to see it. She's feeling good. She's feeling optimistic. I hope you Mets fans are as well. But again, I want to break this ball game down. I do not want to waste time. So much transpired in this matchup, and I'm giddy talking about it. And guys, we will also have before the conclusion of the live show, so in case you guys wonder what we do here, we're going to break down the game inning by inning, innings 1 through 9. We're going to go over the key takeaways from that. Afterwards, I'm going to break down a little bit more on the pitching front and the offensive front, what we saw, just some numbers to throw at you, what's working and maybe what's not. Then from there, of course, at some point, you'll be hearing from our awesome sponsors, So Are MLB and BetUS here shortly. But outside of that, I will leave you guys before we wrap up the live show with our daily farm report. Yes, starting over the past couple of days, we are doing a daily farm report where I'm headlining each of the key takeaways from the Mets farm every single day before we wrap up our shows. I have a lot of key updates on the Syracuse Mets right now. I don't have much on other teams at the moment, so I might not cover every single level today. However, we'll see how we're feeling throughout the entirety of the show. And again, thank you guys for the kind words. Does mean a lot. Scott Greenwald with the $2 hollow. Scott says, right now, eye test shows Torrens over Alvi. That is a crazy thing to say. And we're going to see Alvarez play more often than not. Let's also not forget, the eye test, the offense might be in favor of Torrens right now, but the defense, let's not forget the impact Francisco Alvarez has and has had on this pitching staff since returning. There's a reason why the Mets have been winning ball games. Yes, the offense has helped, but a rotation has kept themselves grounded and together even when they don't provide length. Thank Francisco Alvarez in part for exactly that. Let's see Lynn with the $10 hollow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm a diehard Padres fan, says Lynn. If anyone can relate to frustrating and heartbreaking losses, it would be Mets fans. I think we fixed your problems here. Happy Father's Day early, Wardy. Thank you so much, Lynn, in the chat. Really does mean a lot. Guys, we even got Padres fans being kind out here. That's how much I love each and every single one of you. To the hundreds watching live here on YouTube and the hundreds also watching live on Twitter. Lynn, thank you for your generosity, especially from an opposing fan. To go out your way to send me $10 after your team just got curb stomped and he got swept really does mean a lot to me. You have no idea. And he is exactly right. Padres fans and Mets fans are in unison. We both have very little success to discuss throughout our team's history as an organization, and we would love to see our team be better with our big contracts than what they currently are. Thank you for the donation, Lynn. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Happy Father's Day to you too as well if you're in fact a dad. AZ with the $2 donation says, Mets sweep the red hot Padres, but put it in the books. You'll love to see it. Thank you so much for the donation, AZ. It really does mean a lot, folks. I digress. We're 10 minutes into the damn show. Let's break it down. Let's get it into inning by inning as Big Drip Tyler McGill would be on the bump against Dylan Cease. If you would have told me the Mets would put up a 7-piece on Dylan Cease, better than the usual 6-piece you get at Mickey D's, I would have said, you gotta give me a bridge. You gotta sell me one, because I'm not buying this whatsoever. However, Dylan Cease again attacking the zone, and the Mets just beat him up for breakfast, folks. We see here it starts off in the top of the first, a nice quick work there for Tyler McGill. Actually, I should say it was quick because it really wasn't. No less, we see there in the first inning, we see after a couple outs, Jerkson Profile with a walk, Jake Cronenworth with a single, Manny Machado with a single. We're going to talk a lot about Manny and how much he was a crybaby at the end of this one, and how much I don't want to hear from any opposing fan or current fan saying, oh, well, that wasn't a strike. Yeah, it might not have been a strike, but did you guys see the fastball right down the dick thrown by Drew Smith that was called a ball in the 8th inning? I don't think so. Okay, Jake Cronenworth after that single and a Manny single. Thankfully, Jackson Merrill, who has been the hottest hitter among these batters in this series, strikes out by Tyler McGill to end the inning. So Tyler McGill, Big Drip, 2-out bases loaded situation that we see there in the first, and he gets out of that jam for the most part. The Padres do take a 1-0 lead, if I didn't mention that already, because Manny Machado would drive in the first run of the day for the Padres there, but we're down 1-0, and that doesn't last. If you're wondering, why doesn't this last? Francisco Lindor is, of course, the reason why this doesn't last. Lindor rips his 12th home run of the season that we see there on a fly ball to right. Brandon Nimmo continues to look more locked in on the plate and looking more comfortable in the 2-hole versus a 3-hole. Nimmo rips a single and a live drive to center. JD Martinez gets on via a walk, and Pete Alonso, yes, you heard me say this correctly, Pete Alonso with 3 on and no out, ripped an absolute bomb. Not 3 on, not bases loaded. 2 on, no out. Pete Alonso rips a no-doubt bomb to the left. Alonso makes it a 4-1 Metropolitan lead, his 15th home run of the season. And when I tell you that the sleeping polar bear needed to wake up from his hibernation, not only for his sake on the millions he's losing each day in a walk year, but for the Mets here trying to do anything this season as they push for that 3rd wildcard spot, they needed this desperately, and Pete Alonso was like, you know what, JD, you've been carrying the weight so much this week. I know your back hurts more than it already does. You probably need a second cortisone shot with the way that you're picking up this Mets team right now, but I will help as well. Pete with that huge 3-run ding-dong makes it 4-1. A Starling Marte walk later, the Mets would do nothing else there, but they're up 4-1 through the first inning of play. Who had that on their bingo card today? I know none of you schmucks had it whatsoever, right? Cameron with a $2 donation. Cameron says, gotta keep it going against the World Series champs in Texas. Yes, they do, folks, and I will be live both here and in the Bleacher Report app. I'm going to try to simulcast it in all platforms tomorrow because I have my scheduled segment with Bleacher Report as a host for the postgame tomorrow. So unless I'm in a hospital because, my girlfriend is about to have a baby, I am going to be here discussing the Mets and hopefully after a nice big win there against the Rangers. So be on the lookout. I'll be live both here on YouTube and on Twitter probably, and yes, on the Bleacher Report app tomorrow after the conclusion of that Texas Ranger game, barring any changes. Wardy, I said it before, I will say it again, the boys are going to the postseason. Ronnie, who's a very optimistic Mets fan, a great caller on the channel, called in not that long ago over the past week or two and made it known that the Mets are making playoffs. They will be more buyers by the trade deadline, and you know what? If you bought into that Ronnie Rivera stock in the chat right now, you're feeling good. Hogwatch is live on YouTube, and I wrote, stop ducking Wardy. Good, I'm glad. I hope Borda saw that. I hope he did. Love Borda to death. I know he's depressed about his Padres, and I feel for him, but as a Mets fan who's been curb stomped, including getting my heart broken by the Padres in 2022 wildcard, I also, quite frankly, don't give a shit. We all go through hell together. That's how it is when you're fans of these respective teams. But As we continue to break down the ball game, Billy, thank you so much for the $5 donation, says, I still don't believe it. Need to take this series against the world champs. Also, the City Connects perfectly match our true mascot, Grimace. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And speaking on, trying to stay on par with either Grimace or just outfits for the Mets, now that's Father's Day. The Mets, of course, have their Father's Day hat. The hat I'm wearing is not a Father's Day hat. It was gifted me from a great friend on the channel. They know who they are. Just for being basically season ticket holders, you got a nice little goodie bag a year or two ago, including this hat. So I absolutely love this one. Blue, fretting for Father's Day. We're going to rock it. Billy, thank you for the donation. Let's get that series dub. And shout out, as always, to our boy Grimace, who's been doing amazing things for the Mets as they're 5-0 since that man threw out the first pitch at Citi Field. Who says no, right? All right, Mets again are up 4-1 that we see here throughout the first inning. In the second, Tyler McGill will then have the matchup as follows. He gives up a single to the lefty bat veteran David Peralta. Peralta, who's basically played with every single team in the NL West, not named the Colorado Rockies, gets a man on board. Thankfully, Hassan Kim grounds into a force out there after a pickoff by Tyler McGill on Kim, which was absolutely huge there. Gets a second out. Beautiful turn by McGill to Alonso for the tag. Cam Usano with the walk, but that's all she wrote there in the top of the first. In the top of the second. In the bottom of the second, the Mets do nothing there. Dylan Cease again gets himself grounded, at least for now. As we then head to the third inning, we see Tatis strikes out Profar with a ground out, and the fly out for Cronenworth makes it a nice 1-2-3 punch for Tyler McGill. In the bottom of the third, a JD Martinez walk on base for the second time in 3 innings, doing exactly that. Nothing else transpires. We then get to the fourth inning between these two teams. Nothing happens for the Padres there in the top of the fourth. And the bottom of the fourth, Luis Torrens rips his first of 2 hits on the day. First being a single. Torrens, the veteran catcher who was acquired by the Mets a couple weeks ago with the New York Yankees for $100,000, has provided more in his limited role than Omar Narvaez and James McCann could ever do as a combination. And yes, that is how low that bar is for a backup catcher, not named Tomas Nido, for example. No less, we see after that hit, the Mets can't do a whole lot. A wild pitch, thankfully, from Dylan Cease gets Torrens to second base. A Harrison Bader double, his 10th of the season. Bader stays hot. He's been clutch king with runners in scoring position what feels like all season long. Bader rips his 10th double of the year down the third baseline to give the Mets a 5-1 lead. Another wild pitch by Dylan Cease. Dylan, my goodness. Isn't it kind of crazy how Dylan Cease was traded, and in the return, Drew Thorpe was dealt to the White Sox. Drew Thorpe was one of the top pitching prospects by the Yankees, who was part of the Juan Soto trade this past offseason that I actually helped cover for Born on the Hogwatch YouTube channel. If you guys know, you know, because he wasn't around then. Drew Thorpe now went 5 solid innings in his MLB debut, and Dylan Cease just got his tit slipped by the New York Mets. So, AJ Preller masterclass, to say the least here, folks. And I love Dylan Cease. I like to make that clear. I'm just ragging on him because I can't believe the Mets actually beat up on him the way that they did today. It's a rare thing. It's not a commonality type of thing, and we're going to take it while these things happen. No less, that wild pitch there allows Brennan Nimmo after to rip a single, so you have at least a couple on here. Bader and Nimmo, and JD Martinez does JD Martinez things. When it comes to opposite field power, need I say more? JD Martinez has entered the game here with an opposite field 2-run double to give the Mets a 7-1 lead. Just stays in, unfortunately hits the wall, hits Tatis in right field. Tatis looked terrible in right field. He must have been watching Starling Marte lately. And I will say Marte did have a diving catch today, but he also had a missed play there in the beginning of the 8th with Jake Diekman that kind of started the unraveling, even though it's far more on Diekman than I think anyone else. But Marte's lack of defensive competency was still on Fledge Day, even though I will give him the tip of the cap. Had a awesome diving play that I feel like is the first time I've ever seen Starling Marte dive in his career for a ball. 30 likes away already from 100 in the live chat. Thank you guys all so much for that here on YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button today. Really does mean a lot. Wardy did predict Vientos 0 for today. Yeah, again, I love Marky V. He's been unfortunately cooled off on this homestand, and it goes in hand with Citi Field, and it goes in hand with him not being able to handle breaking pitches. And you want to know what Dylan Cease is fantastic at when he's right? His breaking pitches. We all know that. No less, the Mets have a 7-1 lead, and that does it already for Dylan Cease. Yuki Matsui comes in the ball game here, and we're just in the 4th inning. 3.2 innings of 7 earned run ball. Dylan Cease, thank you for your services. As we continue to break down the ball game, everybody, I sincerely apologize because I just realized I'm not showing the highlights like the schmuck that I am. So I sincerely apologize about that, everybody. Let me also make sure that the win jingle is minimized here, and it is there as well. Apologies to everybody that wasn't watching the highlights prior share here in the live show. How long have we been live here? Oh, already 20 minutes. I'm an ass for that. I apologize, everybody. Wardy, why pull Hauser? We'll get into why pulling Hauser. Thankfully, the Mets still won this one, but yes, I understand the frustration with Hauser, especially as you guys continue to smash those buttons. How you doing, everybody? We're breaking down the latest in Mets land as the Mets win a massive one here, securing the series sweep against the San Diego Padres by a final score of 11-6. And as we continue to break down everything inning by inning, here's the highlights for you guys. Again, my apologies. I don't know why I wasn't running them earlier in the show here. I was just too cooped up and too pumped up about this victory. What can I say, right? I do see a donation as well. Thank you so much, Ralph, for the $2 donation, my friend. I hope you're doing fantastic. Thank you so much for that donation. Really does mean a lot, buddy. Hope all is great on your Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to you, too, if you are, in fact, a father. As we get to the 5th inning, though, we see Luis Campusano with a double, his 13th of the season. Luis arrives with a double, runners to scoring position with no outs here against Tyler McGill. And you want to know what Tyler McGill does? He does some Houdini-ass magic. He strikes out Tatis. He gets a ground ball by apparently the best left fielder in all of Major League Baseball, especially the National League this season. I love you, Borda. Where's Jerkson Profar? He wasn't available, apparently, this entire series. Mr. 171 WRC+. My ass. Profar grounds out. That makes it a 7-2 ball game on the fielder's choice there. A Jay Cronenworth line out does it for the ball game. In the bottom of the 5th, then, we see Mark Vientos with a single, his first hit of the day there. That would be all she wrote, though. The Mets do nothing more. As we then get to the 6th inning, Adrian Hauser comes in of relief for Tyler McGill. And everybody, I would love to see you rate Tyler McGill's final line here, because it is as follows. 5 innings of 5 hit, 2 earned run, 2 walk, 5 strikeout ball, a 3.5 ERA rate on the season for Big Drip McGill. Let me know your biggest takeaway from Tyler McGill and his outing tonight here against the San Diego Padres on this Father's Day. Spam it in the live chat for people down below in the comments. Let me know, where would you rate on a scale of 1 out of 10 where you put Tyler McGill's outing tonight against the San Diego Padres. But to hop back into this one, everybody, let me make sure everything is minimized, everything is set. Yoshima, thank you so much for the $2 donation. Yoshima says, bring out the brooms. Grimace is our hero. Who says no? Bring out the brooms, baby. You love to see it. Let's see. Wardy, David Boy, Danielle F. Girl. I love that, Dave. You're killing me. Irv, great friend in the chill. What's good, Wardy? Ever since Lindor called that meeting, we have woken up. Yep, and you know who has a lot to do with that? JD effing Martinez. Julio, as we love to call him. Mr. Julio Martinez has been fantastic and a true leader in this clubhouse, both on and off the field. Speaking of the Mets, let's get back in this ballgame and how the Mets dominated the Padres. In this one, Adrian Hauser comes in, and we would see Manny Machado thrown out of the ball game, arguing balls and strikes. Yes, it was a half swing that he didn't fully swing, and yes, it was a ball that was out of the zone. But yes, Manny Machado also looked like the lazy smofo this entire series for people saying, oh, he has a hip flexor issue. It's like, okay, where was the hip flexor issue every single year? It feels like in Manny's career, just absolutely taking his dear sweet time down first base. Where is this when Manny, again, picks and chooses when he wants to flash the leather like the elite gold glove caliber defender that he is? So to anyone that says, oh, okay, you know, Manny had a right argument there, how many missed balls and strikes do we see every single day in the game as well? That felt a lot more to me a Manny that's frustrated because he's playing like shit, more so than a piss poor call by the ump there. Because we've seen more obnoxious ones, and that Drew Smith fastball that was clearly in the top of the zone, full in the zone, call for a ball is the worst missed call by any ump today in this matchup. And that's not the Mets bias talking. That's just understanding baseball and looking at the pitches and where they're located. Now, to get back at this, Manny Machado's thrown out of the ballgame for arguing balls and strikes. So naturally, skipper, Mr. Mike Schilt, first year on the bump as the skipper there in San Diego, former skipper there with the St. Louis Cardinals, in which they thought that he was the problem. So they cut him and Braden Marmol, who is absolutely horrendous, in my opinion. Not a big Marmol fan for obvious reasons, Mets fans. You know. But Manny and Schilt are thrown out of the ball game, and then Jack Samaro rips a single. That's all she wrote. Adrian Hauser has a fine inning there. And the bottom of the 6th, we see the Mets, again, unfortunately don't do anything, but things would start to change after a quiet 7th inning from both teams. None of them get anything. Luis Campusano, a single, but a big double play turn with Luis Arise grinding out to induce the double play was huge. And then as we get to the 8th inning, everybody, this is where things go from initially taking a complete shit to things starting to be better. And if you're wondering, Wardy, why were things fluctuating as much as they were, let me enlighten you on what transpired in said ball game. It starts here with Jurickson Profar ripping a single, line drive to right in the top of the 8th to Mr. Starling Marte, a ball that I would have maybe argued to like to Marte to have there, obviously. No less, we see there, if not, that's not a problem too. I might have been completely wrong on what I just said. No less, Profar gets a single. We remember that. Diekman comes in for Adrian Hauser. Again, Hauser at this point was looking fantastic, and this is where there were the debates. Adrian Hauser pitched 2 masterful innings. Yes, he gave up the 1 earned run, but he's been effective for the Mets here. And the reason why he gave up the 1 earned run is because Jake Diekman didn't do him any favors whatsoever. Because Jake Diekman comes in, and then we see Cronenworth reach on a fielder's choice by Jake Diekman. Profar gets to third base. Profar advances a third on a throwing error by Diekman, which certainly didn't help. Then afterwards, we would see David Solano come in as the pinch hitter for Tyler Wade. Solano walks, Cronenworth to second. Jack Samaro walks, Profar scores. It's a 7-3 ball game, no outs. So that one hit that Adrian Hauser gave up there in the top of the 8th inning comes back to bite him. Not that he did anything wrong, but because Jake Diekman doesn't understand what a strike zone is. Then we see, unfortunately, there a ground into a force out makes it a 7-4 ball game from David Peralta. And afterwards, thankfully, we would see not Drew Smith, but Jake Diekman out of the ball game. But Drew Smith doesn't do the Mets too much favors either. Thankfully, it wasn't enough for the Mets to get absolutely steamrolled here, but there was a level of frustration by the fact that it's looking like you had a 7-1 lead. Can we just have a lack of stressful day on this Sunday on Father's Day? Can I go one game without sweating bullets? I guess that is too much to ask for with this Metropolitan team, but we're right around 100 likes in the live chat. Thank you all so much. Help us get a 150 to 200 for a next short-term goal to my over 300 live viewers on YouTube. Really does mean a lot, everybody. But we see Drew Smith come in the ball game, and when Drew Flo comes in the ball game, things unfortunately continue to get worse. He gives up a double to Ha-Seong Kim right away, which makes it a 7-5 ball game. Drew Smith not doing the Mets any favors there. And then Luis Campusano sac fly to center. Thankfully, Harrison Bader was playing fairly shallow. Just jumped enough to make the catch and avoid a game-tying double there, if not triple by Campusano. It's a 7-6 ball game. Luis Arise singles, but this is where things get interesting. Starling Marte might be a liability with his overall defense, but he is not a liability with the arm. Marte's arm is the only reason why he's still commanding right field, and teams are so scared of Marte's arm that they decided not to run Campusano there. Pardon me, not Campusano. They decided not to run Ha-Seong Kim beyond third base when for a lot of other guys, they're running there and tying the ball game. They stay out third, and that was huge as Fernando Tatis Jr. secures the golden sombrero as he would strike out and go 0 for 4 there on the day. The Mets get a huge K from Drew Flo to keep it a 1-run ball game, and they would add on directly after said half inning. In the bottom of the 8th, Luis Torrens, the former San Diego Padre, now foe, he rips his 3rd home run of the season, his 3rd in a Metropolitan uniform, deep to left to make it a 8-6 lead. We see Jeff McNeil get in on the offense, and I'm sorry, if McHitz is getting McDoubles the way he did with his 11th of the season, how are the Mets not winning this ball game? Because even when your worst hitter in the lineup is producing, you know things are happening. You know good things are happening for the Mets here. So they are up 8-6, as we know. Then, again, thanks to Harrison Bader with the single himself, he gets on. We got 2 on, less than 2 out. Bader then steals second base, 2 in scoring position for Francisco Lindor, who walks. What happens after? Brandon Nimmo rips a single up the middle, another multi-hit game, a couple RBIs. How you doing, Brandon? He makes it a 9-6 ball game. JD Martinez, who reaches base 10 consecutive times over the past couple of days, entering this at-bat, striked out swinging on a nasty sinker there by the opposing pitcher for the Padres. No less, it doesn't hurt too much because Pete Alonso's like, again, I told you this already, JD. You can pump the brakes on trying to carry the team every second. I can help out a little. There's a reason why I want over $200 million this offseason that you're probably not going to get from the Mets at this rate. No less, Pete rips himself a massive, and I mean massive, what they call now a single on a sharp ground ball to left field. David Peralta, I don't know if they, for me it felt more than a single, but no less, it's an 11-6 Metropolitan lead for Mr. Pete Alonso. He gets to second base on the play too, and that'll do it. That wins the ball game right there. The Mets are up 11-6, and the 9th, Sean Reed-Foley does what Sean Reed-Foley does, and the Mets go on to win this one by a final score of 11-6. Pete Alonso with the offensive heroics were early and often Dave in the chat says, hi, Wardy. Great win today. We swept. Let's bring the positivity, these positive vibes and energy into Texas. You said it best, my friend. You said it best. And again, guys and gals, I told each and every one of you I would be beyond happy if the Mets could just get themselves a series victory and have a 4-2 homestand. What felt like a truly tall task out of this Mets team had little life to show outside the 10 runs against the Miami Marlins. You know, 2 out of those 3 games against the Marlins were so close where they could have won either way. If it isn't again for late heroics, the Mets don't win that series the same way that they don't have the momentum then heading into this matchup against the San Diego Padres. Now, I know a big question a lot of you guys probably have is, Wardy, should we completely buy in on the Mets now? Should I make sure that I have my flight ready and set for when they ultimately go on a deep playoff run? No, I'm not telling you to do that, but I am telling you to start paying attention if you haven't already. This is why we don't quit on the team too early. This is why we cover them every single day regardless. I know that's my job and I do it for a living, something that I'm always humble and grateful to do, but let's not change the fact that I have no problem skipping some games if I really am beyond fed up with this Mets team. And while I have been, I know you got to keep the faith. I know it's a 162 season. I know that the Mets may very well go on and lose their next 2 or 3 games, but in the meantime, in the interim, on this Father's Day, June 16th of 2024, 5:32 p.m. Eastern Time, I am here to tell you that the New York Metropolitans are not only here in this playoff race, but they are just getting started. You can bookmark it, you can quote it, I don't give a rat's ass what you do. I'm just here to tell you to lock in on the Mets because they're playing entertaining, fun baseball, and these are exact factors as to why you may not see a full-blown fire sale by the trade deadline that many other people maybe initially made you believe over the past month or two with the way that this team has, of course, spiraled downward. To get the type of victories the Mets had in this series is one thing. It's another to sweep a Padres team that was playing very solid baseball entering this matchup. Yes, they beat up on the Oakland A's, so probably some fool's gold there as well, but we just made the Padres go back to below 500 when they were a couple games up entering this series. The Mets, again, sit 1.5 out of a playoff spot. They're making headway. And for the Mets here to now have a schedule as around the 20th most difficult in all Major League Baseball for the rest of the season, how can you not at least feel a sliver of optimism with this Mets team to get where they want to be as a true wildcard contender this year? Do I want the Mets to buy in on a lot of guys on this roster beyond the 2024 season? Heavens no. But what I want them to do is ride high when things are going great and hopefully not to have too low of low streaks, right? I'm beyond fed up seeing this Mets team go on streaks where they again find themselves 10 plus games below 500. It's the fact that the Mets again were over 10 games below 500. I think the worst they were this season was what? 12 or 13? Now we're just 4 games below 500. Get to 500, get to that even slate, and you have yourself a new season of work from there. That is what I want to see the Mets do. It has been awesome to see the type of production that they have had this season. I hope it continues, everybody. I really do. But folks, we got plenty more to talk about. I got a lot on the numbers I want to share on the pitching and the offensive end before we get on to wrapping up the show as well. Again, I appreciate everyone that's been taking the time to chime in live on our replay as we break down the latest in Mets land as they take down the San Diego Padres by a final score of 11-6. But before we get into a little bit more on the pitching, a little bit more on the offense, and we're going to wrap up the show with our daily WardyNYM farm report on the key takeaways that we saw on the prospect front from the baby Mets there in Syracuse and along with some other leagues. If we get to the Rumble Ponies, if we get to Brooklyn, if we get to the Port St. Lucie Mets today, we're going to try to cover them all. I'm going to do my best here. I do see an awesome donation from my man Zach Flakerton in the chat real quick that I'll go on with what I was about to say. Thank you so much, Zach. Zach says 0-5 to start, 12-3, then a month of just one series win, now 11-4. This season is going to be full of ecstasy and heartbreak and nail biter all the way. Yep, they're going to be nail biting. They're going to be playing in tight ball games all the way till the end is what it feels like at this current rate. Did I see Marte watched it hit the ground in front of him putting in no effort? That is what I was referring to the start of said inning there in the 8th with Diekman. Yes, Mets fan for life. Thank you for enlightening me. Yes, that was my initial point I was making on the Marte front. All right, guys, let's talk briefly about you guys and gals now have the chance to enter today. If you don't already, I'll be very surprised. But you got to make sure you get involved now, folks, because we are doing a promo like no other. Again, the Mets might not have a bunch of representatives for this year's MLB All-Star break, even though guys like JD Martinez and Luis Severino may suggest otherwise the way that they're tearing the cover off the ball ball or, you know, pitching great the way Sevy is. But with our awesome friends at Solar MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there, folks, we are giving 5 lucky winners a complete free ride to the MLB All-Star break. So you got to listen up now if you have any interest. And this, again, comes from our great friends, as always, at pardon me, folks, at Solar MLB for you all to check out. Give me 1 second. I got to get some water here. Let this damn thing load too, so just give it 1 more second to make sure that this is all good to go, and we are. All right, guys and gals, in case you don't know, Solar MLB, listen up. In quick terms, this is the best MLB fantasy game out there. You enter a team that you draft your team. You enter weekly tournaments that you can play for free or for dollars, in which you are building your club by buying and selling and trading the cards on the marketplace of Solar MLB with your friends and with people across the globe. I have 2 tournaments in which I've entered, and I have 2 teams rolling with. One of which, again, Zach Wheeler got absolutely lit up by the O's today, but that's okay because I got Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, the same guys that beat up on him. Edwin Diaz back off the IL with some great production as well. If you do well in these tournaments, the way that I have been of recent, you win upgraded cards for your roster, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars if you do really well. Ticket giveaways, we've done Mets ticket giveaways on the past, all for signing up to Solar MLB and drafting a team today. But now we have a giveaway like no other that we've been doing over the past week on the channel, which there is just over a week to still enter. And that's the MLB All-Star Collection event. So again, in simple terms, if you guys know MLB The Show, if you guys like playing video games, if you like being your own GM, and if you like collecting online virtual cards, this is a game for you. The same way that I just showed you guys my team with those gold cards that you can, again, buy for just cents on the dollar, if not multiple bucks, it depends on the type of player. You buy a bunch for one specific team, and once you get a score of at least 150, in which I have a 200 score for the Mets for the roster last year, and yes, you can use outdated cards. They don't need to be guys currently on the Mets, as long as they are a Mets representative when you buy the card. And Orioles at 160 and the Miami Marlins here at 180, my collection, this has me automatically entered for my chance to win a free ride to the MLB All-Star break, where Solar MLB, for 5 lucky winners, is giving away 1 ticket to the MLB Home Run Derby, 1 ticket to the MLB All-Star game, 1 ticket to the MLB Futures game, 1 ticket to the View the Home Run Derby or All-Star batting practice on field, 4 tickets to the MLB Play Ballpark, 1 for each day, and a $1,000 travel credit. So again, all your expenses basically paid for this awesome All-Star break trip, and you get to be involved with everything that the All-Star break has to offer. And as you guys can see here, when we take a look at the Mets collection, all you got to do is get a score of 150. So you don't need every player on the roster. You just need a bunch of guys. And all I would say is, if you spend around 10 bucks here on the marketplace, this is how you do it, and you're automatically entered then to enter this, which again, we'll wrap up in just over a week from now for your chance to enter this awesome MLB ballpark, not MLB ballpark, but MLB Solar MLB giveaway for the All-Star break. But again, you got a $1 card, got a $3 card for Brooks, David Robertson, former Met John Curtis, $1 for Brooks Raley, $1 for Carlos Carrasco, who's out of frame right now, $10 for Scherzer, but no one's spending 10 on Max. It's $3 for Jose Quintana, $3 for David Pearson, $1 for Daniel Vogelbach, $1 for Omar Narvaez, the schmuck that he is, $2.52 for Tomas Nido. My point is, it doesn't take much to just build a collection score of 150 in this game, and then you can then enter for your chance to win this awesome giveaway. So to everybody entering that understands the concept, good luck. Make sure you sign up with our great friends at Solar MLB that I have linked available for you all down below in the description of this live show. And again, good luck to everybody that enters with our great friends at Solar MLB. Cannot wait to see who the winners will be from that one. Again, we have just over a week until that event is officially over, but I appreciate everyone that takes part in it, especially. You guys are the best. Let's see. Hog is having a bit of a meltdown right now. Sucks to be a Padres fan. Hog is, of course, he's having a meltdown. I'll talk to Hog after the game. If you guys don't know Borna at Hogwatch, please make sure to check out his live show after you guys are watching this one. If you want to see a Padres fan perspective by being swept by the New York Mets, and you want entertainment, if you want a guy to be emotional and emphatic with his emotions, his personality, similar to me, he's the guy for you. So make sure to check that out. Let's see. Let's see in the chat here, folks. Okay, Priest, if you count all the games they did win, they're 0 for the season. So what's your actual point? We got some nice back and forth here in the chat. Love to see it, everybody. Thank you all so much. Almost at 150 likes here in the live show as well. So continue to smash that like and subscribe on for your boy. Thank you all so much, everybody. But as we hop back into this one, I do want to talk briefly on Tyler McGill. I won't spend much talking about his arsenal today, and same thing goes as a whole. My man Isaac Rothman will be back with me on thorough pitching reports that we do daily that my man Isaac relays parlays my way. Was not available today on Father's Day, and that's okay. I don't want to deep dive them too much. I'll just tell you, when it came to Tyler McGill today, it felt more of the same. Again, a very capable starter for 5 innings, but when it comes to getting length out of him, we're going to continue to have an issue. Very much in line with this entire Mets rotation this season. But to expand on it briefly, McGill had a whopping arsenal. We were talking 7 pitches. 7 pitches. This is what he threw out the kitchen sink on the Padres today. 4-seam fastball. Sat 96 there and was thrown 55% of the time. Cutter 15% of the time at 91 miles per hour. Splitty 10% of the time at 85. Curveball 9% at 77. Slider 7% at 87. Sweeper at 3% at 81. And changeup that he threw once at 87. What we saw success rate wise was that Splitty that he of course works so well when it's going right. Had a 50% whiff rate there by Tyler McGill today. Again, barely threw the sweeper, but when he did, he had 100% whiff rate. Didn't get much swing and miss there on the 4-seam fastball. Again, he ate a bit of the zone, walked a couple, but Tyler McGill, again, had some Houdini magic, worked out of some key jams, which I greatly appreciate. So thank you for that, Tyler. But for me personally, 5 innings of 2 earned run, 5 strikeout ball. I'm going to give Tyler McGill today a solid 5.5 or 6 out of 10 would be my. I'll give him a 6, especially because he didn't get lit up and he was able to limit the damage when guys were doing well against him. So that is the rating I'm personally going to give Tyler McGill today. Again, that fastball, he threw quite a bit, 55% of the arsenal today. Topped out almost 98 there, so there was life. Minimum was 92, but sat around 96, and that's where you want the velo for Tyler McGill. History will tell you that when McGill has velo on his side, he usually has a bit more success. And shout out again to the logo in the background. Absolutely love how that looks. That's so cool. But that's it on the pitching front. Adrian Houser did what he needed to do. He was more than fine. If it isn't for Jake Diekman's incompetence, he doesn't give up that earned run that we saw there. In case you want to ask Tyler on how I'm feeling between 1 and 10, you're at an 8, Enzo. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Awesome seeing you guys in the chat. Let me know where you stand on the McGill front if you haven't already, especially. But when we get on to Adrian Houser, he did what he needed to do. Thank you, Adrian. He's been so much better as a reliever. We should have started the season, but again, it's better now than never. Jake Diekman, don't get me started with Jake Diekman. I want Danny Young back in this bullpen as our southpaw option yesterday. Would I like 2 southpaw options? Yes, but when Brooks Raley, my favorite southpaw, goes down for the rest of the season with injury and is likely never going to pitch a game in a Mets uniform as a pending free agent, we have to deal with our current options. And for Diekman, who doesn't have options the way Danny Young does, is why David Stearns and the Mets opted to keep Diekman in this pen. The problem, Jake Diekman is so Jekyll and Hyde that he almost blew it for the Mets today. He was very close to doing that. 1 earned run does not tell the whole story here. It certainly doesn't. Drew Smith as well didn't do the Mets much favors, but he wasn't charged with a run. And Sean Reed-Foley continues to be absolutely nails in this bullpen, who was in the non-save role there in the 9th inning. So that's what you got on the pitching front for the Mets today. And then on the hitting front, again, when I say you get ahead, you get ahead, you get ahead, this is why, everybody, when the Mets go out and hit everyone in the mother the way that they did in this one. Don't hit your mothers, folks, especially on Mother's Day. You're screwed up. Father's Day, rather. What am I saying? We see on the offense, Francisco Lindor 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored, the home run, the 2 RBIs, 231 average, 725 OPS on the season. Brandon Nimmo 3 for 5 with 2 runs scored, an RBI, 232, 733. JD Martinez 2 for 3 with the RBI, the two walks, and the opposite field double. JD Martinez 293 average, 881 OPS. Pete Alonso 2 for 5 with a run scored, the massive 3-run home run, 5 RBIs on the day for Mr. Pete. 232, 771 rather. Starling Marte 0 for here. Rare 0 for Marte, who's been red hot, but when you don't start him yesterday, that can go in hand as to why. Marte 281, 759. And then we see Mark Vientos get his first hit of the series here. Just 3 hits in this entire homestand for Vientos. Coming back down to earth with a 286 average and an 858 OPS. Luis Torrens continues to rake as the backup catcher here. Torrens 2 for 4 with the huge insurance home run to make it 8-6 there in the 8th inning. And then we see 2 runs scored. Torrens 318 average, over 1,000 OPS. Jeff McNeil 1 for 4 with the double and the run scored. McNeil 222, 600. When is Jose Iglesias going to start is all the questions that I have currently. Harrison Bader 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored and a double and an RBI. 272 average, 704 OPS on the season for Mr. Harrison Bader. The Master Bader. What? Let's see what you guys got for me in the chat right now, folks. To my roughly 300 live viewers, 15 likes away from 150 in the live chat. Thank you guys all so much for that, you absolute beauties. Really does mean a lot. Let's see. I think Escobar actually did and got released. What are we talking about with Eduardo Escobar in the chat here, everybody? Enlighten me for a second. Vogie can't play the outfield. No, Daniel Vogelbach, Mets legend, was just cut the other day by the Toronto Blue Jays. So wishing Vogie the best wherever he lands, because I'd be surprised if it's with a Major League ball club at this rate, at least to play on the Major League team. But staying on the topic of the Mets here, everybody, I now want to, because we talked about the offense, and my final takeaway here on the offense is, oh, how refreshing is this to say and see. The Mets now, ERA-wise, on the pitching front, have been one of, not the best in baseball for a good stretch now. They have been looking so much better, which is awesome. And on the offensive end, they have been hitting early and often, a 301 expected batting average. The Padres had a 290 expected batting average, but luck was not on their side. It was in Flushing with the Mets and not the Padres. Out hit the Padres 14-10 into this one. And for a Mets offense now, they have been rolling. JD Martinez has been such a saving grace for them. To get JD on a $4.5 million deal, where you, of course, are eating money afterwards there on deferred payments. One of the best, sneakiest moves in recent history for the Mets, and I'm so happy to be right about at least something. You guys know, especially when it comes to the offseason, it can be very fickle. When it comes, even leading up to the trade deadline on targets and, guys the Mets are connected to, where they actually land. Most people didn't think they were actually going to land JD Martinez because of all the inconsistent reporting, which is understandable why fans felt that way. But once they actually signed him, I mean, oh my God, was through the roof with joy and excitement. And that holds true because we're seeing JD Martinez be the JD Martinez we not only need him to be, but expected him to be. And he is truly blossoming at the best time possible for this Mets team. Let's see. Buck playing him constantly was the most frustrating thing in the world. If you're referring to Vogie, you have Mr. Billy Epler to thank for that. Lord Bader sounds better. Lord Bader does sound better. Great member of the channel. Francisco Rodriguez Cordero. How are you, my friend? Happy to have you in here as always. Yes, it does sound. It sounds a little bit more PG, does it not? Versus me just screaming masturbator in my neighborhood right now. Don't do what I do. Don't be the schmuck that I am, folks. But all I got to say is fantastic time to be a Mets fan this past week, and you got to hope the high continues. You got to hope these victories continue to roll, because we're actually building an optimism now for this Mets team to be, again, both a buyer and a seller by the trade-in line. That is very much in the mix right now, and I assure you, the Mets are at most 3 games out of a playoff spot by the deadline. They will not be full selling. They will not be doing that. If they're in the mix, they're going to play daily as if they're in the mix and operate as such. But speaking of the Mets here, now let's get into a bit on the farm report. As many of you guys know, I mentioned already, we're going to do a quick little farm report before we wrap up every live show. And let's do that once again here, as the Metsies in Syracuse took down the Iron Pigs there, which is great. The Iron Pigs are like not far from me at all, as I reside in Pennsylvania. But in Syracuse, the Mets took them down with ease. Final score 9-3. And their production came from guys like Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna ripped a home run today. Love to see that from Acuna. Awesome stuff. Just his 4th of the season there for Acuna. 260 average, sub 700 OPS on the season for one of the Mets' top prospects. 2 for 5 with an RBI today. We then saw Brett Beatty, who's been raking in AAA, go 0 for today, surprisingly. Brought the average down to a cool 429 and OPS of over 1,200. We also saw Mr. Ritter. For those that don't know my man Ritter over here, Luke Ritter, again, a seasoned vet of a minor leaguer for the Mets. I was talking about yesterday how the Mets should really give this guy an opportunity at some point as an infield utility option, because he rakes, and he is raking again. Ritter with 2 home runs today. He's now up to 16 on the season, if not 17 already, Mr. Ritter. Love to see it. Already 2 for 4 with a couple bombs, 261 average, 903 OPS on the season. Let me know in the chat, everybody. Luke Ritter's not a top Mets prospect by any stretch, but he's a guy that's been hitting bombs galore like never before for a couple years now that we have seen in AAA. Is he a guy that you would like to see the Mets consider a call-up for over, say, Jose Iglesias, who's more of a contact guy in the infield? Let me know in the chat, guys. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. You said a few days ago that Diekman was Jekyll and Hyde pitcher in the bullpen, Tyler. Oh my God, to say I was right is an understatement. He is exactly as advertised. That's why I've never wanted Jake Diekman overly in his career. I can't stand his walk rate. I can't stand how he pitches every other time out there. It's just brutal. But on the pitching end for the Mets, Blake Tidwell, top pitching prospect for them, won 4 innings, a 4-hit, 3 earned run, 2 walk, 5 strikeout ball, allowed a home run for Syracuse tonight. As just over a 5-year rate this season, Tidwell still gained acclimated to the AAA level as he was called up over the past month or two now to the Syracuse Mets from Binghamton Rumble Ponies there in AA. And staying on the topic of AA, now let's look up what the Mets were doing with the Rumble Ponies today. Let's check their box score. Let's see if anyone did anything noteworthy today for the Rumble Ponies, because the Mets, of course, have a lot of exciting prospects there in AA, High A as well. But these Rumble Ponies, there's a lot of pieces to like for sure. And today, between the two, the Mets actually won by a final score of 7-2 here against the Somerset Patriots. Mets in AA getting the job done. And as we look at the offensive production, who did it come from? What did it come from? We got here Mr. Home runs came from no one overly notable. Alex Ramirez, however, did hit a home run, which is nice. Ramirez, who was almost a Rule 5 candidate for the Mets this past year because of his underwhelming play at the pro level, is unfortunately having yet another very underwhelming season in AA now with the Rumble Ponies after a fantastic spring training of spreading the ball with his opposite field hits especially. Ramirez hit a home run, 3 RBIs, 224 average, 638 OPS on the season. Ryan Clifford, who's hit home runs in the past couple of games in dramatic fashion for the Rumble Ponies, had nothing to show for today. 205 average, 911 OPS on the season, our Kyle Schwarber, if you will. Outside that, Kevin Prada did nothing. Kevin Prada is looking more of a wash of a prospect by the day, unfortunately, because he was a bat-first prospect that can't bat at the pro level and isn't great defensively. We got ourselves a problem, don't we? Jalen Palmer, who's felt like he's been the Mets orc forever. Again, the New York native ripped himself a home run, his 6th of the year, 211 average, 874 OPS. But that's really all she wrote. You know, nothing else that transpired there, nothing overly notable on the pitching end, too, of like top prospects or anything like that. So now we'll check out the Brooklyn Cyclones quick, and then we will also check out the Port St. Lucie before we wrap up the show here. Let's see here. Y'all keep dreaming. I love when Yankee fans come in the chat as if we give a flying fuck. That's the best part of it. Demon D, buddy, that's got to suck to be spending your Father's Day, especially if you're a father, in a Mets chat when your Yankees are rolling. Holy shit. Talk about labeling us little brother. At least not be as insecure as you are next time and make it a lot easier for yourself. Trust me. It'll help. Elf in the chat, how you doing? Why haven't they sat down Pete this whole season? Give him some rest or punishment for not hitting? Well, Elephant, it's because the Mets got Alonso to hit really well today, and Alonso's in a walk here, and he wants to play every day. Trying to get Alonso not play consistently is a very hard thing to do for a guy with all the pressure and expectations he has this season. Whether he hits or doesn't hit, he's going to be in the lineup more often than not. Nick Morabito, a very exciting outfield prospect for the Mets. Today commanding center field, won 1 for 3 with 3 runs scored, 300 average, and sub-800 OPS on the season as the Brooklyn Cyclones lost in extras to the Renegades. After that, we didn't see too much anything else that's overly notable on that front. Let me see on the pitching end. Nothing overly notable there, but Morabito, again, is a standout there, has been looking great all season long, and that's been great to see there. Consuegra, who, again, has been solid in spring training, but not a guy the Mets will really ever consider. 4 for 5 with his hits today. And we also saw there Mr. William Lugo, who is a shortstop prospect for us, has been in the organization for a little bit now, the 22-year-old. Had himself a solid day on the plate while he struggled overall this season. But that's really all she wrote there. So now let's get on to the St. Lucie Mets, and then we wrap up the live show here, everybody. Thank you all so much for hitting that smash that like and subscribe on, in case you guys haven't already. Thank you kindly. Let's see. Y'all keep taking the backseat to the Yankees and back page bums. Buddy, you think we give a shit about back pages? It's 2024. We're doing more than just reading, a certain newspaper every day. I'm not going to quote any specific newspapers because I have a lot of great friends, and I appreciate some of those stations as well. Speaking of newspapers, actually, just did a New York Post sports segment yesterday on their YouTube channel with my man Dexter Henry. They collaborate with SNY there, New York Post Sports, and we talked about Diaz, JDM, and the Mets currently as of early yesterday. Francisco, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Great member. Really does mean a lot, my friend. Hope you're doing well. But to wrap up the live show, folks, now the final remarks as the Port St. Lucie Mets got shut out 4-0 today. So I'm sure there won't be anything notable, but I'll just double check for you all briefly before we wrap this one up. And yes, nothing notable whatsoever on the offensive end, as you'd expect. The Mets only had 1 hit. So thankfully, the New York Mets did better than the Port St. Lucie Mets today, everybody. But that's going to do it. Thank you all so much. Francisco, you're an absolute beauty. I greatly appreciate the donation, my friend. That'll do it for the live show, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. The Mets win this one. A huge victory, a much-needed victory. And should they continue to roll, the optimism will increase, and my excitement, too, will increase, and you'll see a hot-headed Wardy more often than not filled with excitement should these boys finally get on a roll. Do they have to start replacing Marte in late innings for defensive purposes? They may need to in certain matchups. It would definitely make sense. The Mets have before. I'm sure they will again. But that'll do it for me, everybody. Have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Happy Father's Day to all you Mets dads out there. The Mets take this one again. Final score is as follows, 11-6, and we will be back live tomorrow, live on here, live on Twitter, and live on the Bleacher Report app, barring any changes. Have a great one, folks.